The cage was cold. The chains were tight. The air smelled like metal, blood, and old fear. Princess Solari of the Vayari Empire sat on the floor of her prison. Her skin, pale gold, was marked with bruises. Her long white hair hung like broken silk. Her eyes, sharp and silver, held no fear, but deep behind them there was anger. Anger for the ones who captured her, anger for the ones who failed to protect her, and anger for what she had become, a prisoner. The enemy had taken her during a border raid. They didn't care that she was highborn. They didn't care that she was royalty. To them, she was just a piece of power, something to use. The guards rarely spoke. When they did, they laughed. "Look at the proud Vayari now," one said. "She bleeds like the rest of us." Solari never answered. She sat still, like stone. But something was wrong. Today, the air shook. A low rumble rolled through the floor. Then, boom, an explosion rocked the prison. Lights blinked. Alarms screamed. The walls shook again. "What was that?" a guard yelled. Solari stood slowly. The chains pulled at her arms. Another blast. Closer this time. And then, silence. Just for a second. Then, gunfire. Fast, loud, sharp, shouts, screams. A shadow moved outside her cell. Someone was coming. She raised her chin. "My people have returned," she whispered. But it wasn't her people. The door burst open. A human soldier stepped inside, tall, dark armor half broken. His helmet glowed red, blood on his arms, a strange mark on his chest. He was breathing hard. Solari stepped back. "You," she hissed. "A human?" He didn't answer. He walked to her, looked at the chains, raised a small tool. She slapped it out of his hand. "Do not touch me." He paused. She stared at him. "You dare lay hands on a highborn?" He didn't speak. He simply picked up the tool, bent the lock, and broke the chain. Fast, quiet. She fell forward. He caught her. For a moment their skin touched, his hand on her arm, her eyes wide in shock. She pulled away like she had touched fire. "Unclean," she spat. "I did not ask for your help." He looked at her. No anger, no fear, just calm. Then he turned and walked toward the hallway. She stood still, breathing hard. Another blast shook the ground. He looked back once, nodded. His head. "Follow me." She almost refused, but she ran. The hallway was full of smoke, bodies on the ground, human and alien. The air was thick with fire. The soldier moved fast. He knew the way. Solari stumbled behind him. "Where are we going?" she shouted. He said nothing. More guards appeared. He dropped two before they could shoot. He grabbed her arm again. She almost screamed and pulled her through a side tunnel. They reached a loading bay. Half-burned, broken. A ship waited. "You stole this?" she asked. He tapped a button. The ramp opened. They ran up just as more enemies came around the corner. Gunfire. Sparks. He turned, fired twice. Doors closed behind them. Inside, the ship shook. He sat at the pilot seat, pressed buttons with quick hands. Solari dropped into a chair. Her heart was racing. Outside, the prison exploded. Fire lit the windows. The ship lifted off. In the silence of space, she looked at him. The man who touched her. The man who saved her. He removed his helmet. His face was young. Too young. A scar ran across his jaw. His eyes were tired, but strong. "You speak now?" she asked. He nodded. "Then tell me," she said coldly. "Why did you come?" He stared out the window. "Because no one else would." She looked away. But she couldn't stop thinking about his hand, the one that broke her chains, the one that caught her when she fell. She had been touched by a human and she hated that. But even worse, a part of her didn't. The ship flew low over a red world broken by war, cracked ground, black sky, fire in the hills. The human didn't speak. He pressed buttons, changed directions, and landed the ship in the shadows of an old mountain. Princess Solari sat in the back seat. She did not speak either. Not at first. But her mind was loud. A human had touched her. A human had carried her. And now, a human was the reason she was alive. She hated that thought. And yet, she kept looking at him. The ship landed near a cave. The human opened the hatch. Cold air rushed in. He grabbed a bag from the floor, opened it, pulled out gear. Food, light sticks, an old map. She stepped out after him, holding her arms close. Her royal clothes were dirty, torn. She had never walked in mud before. He moved ahead, fast and quiet. "Slow down," she called. He didn't. She followed anyway. The tunnel was dark, wide, full of echoes. They walked for hours, maybe more. Time felt strange underground. She tried to speak again. "Where are you taking me?" No answer. She moved closer. "You can hear me, I know that." Still nothing. "You think silence makes you noble?" She snapped. "You are not a warrior. You are a human." He stopped, turned slightly, then looked at the map. She stared at the back of his head. "Say something," she said. He pointed. "What?" She frowned. He pointed again, this time to the wall. A symbol. Faint. Ancient. It looked like two stars wrapped in flame. Her breath caught. "That's Vayari. Old Vayari." He looked at her now. His eyes said, "I know." They kept walking. The air grew colder, the walls smoother, and the silence between them heavier. Celery watched him closely now. His steps made no sound. His movements were exact, fast, trained. But it was more than that. His armor hummed when it touched the stone, like it recognized this place. He recognized this place. But he was human. He shouldn't. They reached a chamber. Dark, round, silent. She stepped inside and froze. The walls were full of carvings. Veins of light ran through the stone. Writing. Vayari. Old Vayari. She walked closer, touched the wall. The lights lit up. The symbols glowed. One line formed a word. Return. The human stepped to the center of the room, placed his hand on the ground. The room responded. A circle of lights rose around him. Solari stepped back. "What are you doing?" she asked. He stood slowly, removed his glove. His hand glowed. Not from light. From code. Moving symbols. Not Vayari. Not human. Something between. Something forgotten. "What? Are you?" she whispered. He looked at her, finally speaking. "The last thing your people ran from." She stared at him. This wasn't just a soldier. Wasn't just a human. He knew her language. He knew her past. He knew this place. And her hands were shaking. Outside the chamber, machines began to move. Old guardians, made of stone and steel. They turned toward the light. They did not attack him. They stepped aside. He walked past them. Solari followed, her breath tight in her chest. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel highborn. She felt small. In the dark, she asked, "What is your name?" He didn't answer. She asked again, "Do you even have one?" He looked at her, quiet, then whispered, "You wouldn't understand it." The tunnels were deeper now, darker, older. The walls no longer looked carved. They looked grown, smooth like bone, cold like sleep. Princess Solari walked behind the human. She no longer shouted at him, no longer called him creature. She just followed. Something in the air felt wrong, like the past was watching. "What is this place?" she asked. He didn't answer. But he looked around slowly, as if remembering. The lights in the walls pulsed softly with his every step. Blue, white, then gold. The gold lights only came when he was close. Never for her. They reached a bridge of glass, hanging over a black pit, no bottom, no echo, just dark. Silari froze. "This isn't natural," she whispered. He kept walking. His steps made the bridge light up, one tile at a time. When she stepped on it, the light vanished. She walked faster too. "Stay close, halfway across." They heard a sound. Not a voice. Not a footstep. A click, like metal bones moving in the dark. Silari turned. The tunnel behind them had changed. A shape stood there. Not alive. Not dead. A tall, thin figure made of stone and armor, with a face like glass and claws like razors. It had no eyes, but it looked straight at her. Then it moved. Fast. Too fast. "Run," she shouted, but the human did not run. He turned and faced the creature. It leapt, but before it could reach him, he raised one hand. The air shook. A light burst from his skin. The creature stopped in mid-air. Then it dropped. Frozen. Dead. Or maybe sleeping. Silari stared. "What was that?" He looked at her. "Guardian," he said. "Old. Yours?" He shook his head. "Ours." They crossed the bridge. On the other side, more statues waited, but none moved. None attacked. They stood still as stone. Only one turned its head. As he passed, just a little, just enough. Like a bow. The chamber ahead was full of screens. Not new. Not alive, but waiting. The human placed his hand on one. The screens woke. Images flickered. Videos. Pictures. Maps. And then, a recording. A voice. Bayari voice. Female. Strong. Sad. "This is our last broadcast. If you find this, then one of them still lives. Protect it, or it will die with us. The others are not ready." Silari stepped back. "That's my language." The human nodded. "It was never just yours." The room filled with images. Earth. Not broken, not dead, full of light. Humans and Bayari standing together, sharing knowledge, building stars. Then, a war. Something in the dark. Something worse than machines. Something that took voices. Something that left only silence. And after that, only. Silari stared at the screen. "You were made for this," he nodded. "You were grown in a lab." He nodded again. "By my people." "By our people," he corrected. She said nothing. Behind them another sound echoed. More clicks, more claws. But this time, the human didn't lift his hand. He simply turned around. The lights in the walls brightened. The machines in the hallway stopped and knelt one by one. Silari covered her mouth. They weren't hunting him, they were answering him, and suddenly, she didn't feel like a prisoner anymore. She felt like a student, a child, standing next to something older than royalty, older than war, older than her fear. "You saved me," she whispered. "Why?" He looked at her. "Because you're not ready." "Ready? For what?" His eyes turned to the screen. A new symbol had appeared. Not Bayari, not human, something else. Something cold and moving. Them. The room was waiting. Not glowing, not locked. Just still. Like a breath held too long. The walls were smooth and dark. No screens, no machines, no weapons, just light. Soft, pulsing. Alive. The human stood at the edge, silent as always. Princess Silari stepped in slowly, her voice dropped to a whisper. "What is this place?" he answered without looking at her. "Your memory." She didn't understand. Until the lights moved. Not like machines. Like thoughts. They floated around her like small stars. Blue, gold, and soft white. Warm, but not hot. One drifted close. She touched it. The room changed. Suddenly she was standing in a city made of glass and wind. Bayari towers touched the sky. But humans walked beside them, not slaves, not guards, equals. They laughed together, worked together, built together. Solari reached out. This can't be real. The human spoke quietly. It was. A second light touched her hand. A new memory, a room full of scholars, Vayari elders, human engineers. A child stood between them. Half human, half Vayari. It had silver eyes and glowing hands. Solari gasped. That child? Was that one of you? He said nothing. She touched a third light. The sky darkened. Ships fell from space. Cities screamed. Vayari and humans stood side by side. But they were not enough. Shadow came from beyond the stars. It didn't destroy. It erased. And the people made a choice. They did not run. They forgot. They cut memory from their minds, hid the truth, buried the child. Solari fell to her knees. The lights around her dimmed. Her voice trembled. Why didn't they tell us? He stepped closer. Because they were afraid of remembering. She looked up at him. You knew this. Pieces of it. He said. How? He touched his chest. A faint glow beneath the skin. They didn't just make us. They stored memory. Inside us. You're a vault, she whispered. A living one. Another light floated near her face. She didn't want to touch it, but it touched her. This time, she saw herself. Not as a princess. Not as a leader. As a child. In a garden with another child, a human, her hand in his. They were laughing, no fear, no hate, just friendship. The memory ended. Solari was crying now. Quiet tears. We were never meant to hate each other. No, the human said. You were meant to protect each other. And now? He looked toward the far wall. A single symbol appeared. Circle dot cut by a crack. Now it's too late for that. The lights began to fade. The memory room dimmed. Solari stood slowly, her legs weak. So what do we do? He stared at her. You remember. And I finish what was started. As they walked out, the tunnel ahead lit up with lines of gold. Not warning, welcoming. Machines moved aside. The past had spoken. Now the future was watching. And Solari no longer saw the human as lowborn. She saw him as something else entirely. A story they tried to forget, but couldn't. They ran through the ruins, not from fear, from purpose. Above them, the sky burned red. Enemy ships blocked the stars. Machines crawled from the mountains. Drones screamed through the sky like knives. The human ran first, fast and silent. Solari followed. Not. Behind him, beside him, they reached an old wall, broken, half covered in dust. The human knelt and brushed it clean. Beneath the dust, symbols, not Vayari, not human, something older. A warning. They return where light forgets. Solari stared at it. What does it mean? He looked at the sky. They're already here. A sound cut the air, sharp, high. They turned. A metal creature dropped from the cliffs above. No face. Just blades. Solari reached for her weapon, but too slow. The human moved faster. He stepped between her and the beast. The creature slashed. His arm caught the blow. Metal met bone. Blood hit the dirt. He didn't scream. He struck once. Hard. The creature shattered. Solari dropped beside him. You're bleeding. He nodded. A lot. I know. Why did you do that? He looked at her, eyes calm. You're the one we were made to protect. We? He didn't answer, but in his blood something strange glowed. Not red. Blue. They moved into a bunker hidden beneath the cliffs. More machines followed. They fought together now. Solari's blade, sharp and fast, his fists, quiet and brutal. No wasted words, just movement. They fought like a pair born for this moment. And maybe they were. After the fight, they rested in the silence. She looked at his arm. Burned. Cut. He wrapped it himself. No sound. You should rest, she said. You should leave, he replied. Why? Your people will come soon. They won't like what you saw. I don't care what they like. He looked at her for a long time. Yes, you do. Minutes later, ships appeared in the sky. Vayari, her people, the highborn, they landed like gods, tall, proud, clean. They surrounded the bunker. Soldiers marched in, guns raised. Princess Solari, a captain called. Are you harmed? No. Was it this creature who touched you? She froze. The soldiers looked at the human. They pointed weapons. You. Down. Now. He didn't move. She stepped in front of him. They raised guns. He saved me, she said. He touched you, the captain said. He bled for me. He is not of us. Maybe that's why he survived. The air cracked with tension. One soldier whispered. Orders are to kill him. Solari looked at the human. Do something, she whispered. He shook his head. I don't fight my creators. You're not a weapon, aren't I? She looked at her people. At the guns. At the human behind her, and she spoke quietly. If you shoot him, you shoot me too. Silence. Long. Deep. Then, stand down, the captain said, voice tight. The soldiers lowered their weapons. Barely. Solari turned to the human. He didn't smile. He didn't thank her. Just looked at the stars. They'll erase this, won't they? He asked. Yes, like they erased us before. She looked at him. Not this time. But even as she said it, she knew. They would try. The throne room was warm. Too warm. Soft lights. Clean floors. Silent guards. Gold on every wall. But Solari felt cold. Cold in her hands. Cold in her voice. Cold in her heart. It had been 3 days since her return. The Empire celebrated. The princess is safe, they said. The humans are defeated, they claimed. They threw light shows in the sky. They sang the old songs, but Solari didn't sing. She sat on the throne, straight and proud like her mother had taught her, but her hands shook beneath the sleeves, and her eyes never lifted when they said his name. No one asked how she was saved. No, one wanted to know. The report had been cleaned. Found near ruins. Rescued by patrol. Human presence. Unconfirmed. She had tried to stop them once, but the voice of truth was smaller than the machine of lies. A scroll waited on her throne. She opened it, sealed in red wax, the final order. Subject 47 to 3A, marked as terminated. No name, just a number. Her fingers clenched the paper until it tore. Later, alone, she walked the halls of the Royal Archive, a place where old records slept, where history was rewritten with golden ink. She passed rooms full of silence, until she reached one door. Steel. No mark. No light. But she remembered the code, his code. 5 taps, 2 pauses, 1 touch. The door opened. Inside only one thing waited, a screen. Dusty. Cracked, but still alive. She tapped it. It flickered, then played. A message. His face, his voice, his eyes. Quiet, tired, and honest. He spoke. If you found this, it means I didn't run. I didn't save you for a reward. I didn't fight to be remembered. I did it because no one else would. You are highborn. You have light in your blood. But you were never told the truth. Your people erased it. We were made to protect you, but they turned us into shadows. Now we live in silence. Until someone remembers. Maybe that someone is you. Goodbye, Solari. The message ended, but the screen stayed lit. Soft blue, like his blood, like his hands, like his memory. She sat on the floor. She didn't cry, but her throat burned. Her heart pounded with words she didn't know how to say. For the first time, the throne behind her felt like a cage, and the only person who ever freed her was gone. Hours passed. No one came. No one asked. But she stayed. watching the screen, replaying his words. One line over and over. Maybe that someone is you. When morning came, she stood. She walked out of the room, head high, steps silent. But her eyes no longer looked at the floor. They looked forward, past the gold, past the guards, past the lies, and into something greater. Because now she carried more than her name. She carried a promise. War had returned, not loud, not sudden, just steady. Like a storm that never really left. Ships darkened the sky. Old enemies rose again, stronger. The Empire needed warriors, but what it truly needed was memory. Princess Solari stood at the top of the city wall. She wore silver armor, polished and sharp. Her crown sat beside her. She hadn't worn it in days. "We lost contact with the outer posts," a guard said. "Reinforcements aren't coming." Solari's voice was calm. "Then call the one we buried." "Excuse me, Princess," she turned. "Bring him back." Somewhere in the black edges of space, a door opened. A ship slipped through, silent, plain, small, but inside, the one they called unworthy had changed. Not broken, not bitter, just different. His armor was new, dark and smooth, marked with the light symbols of 2 forgotten languages. His eyes were the same, tired, sharp, watching, and beside him stood others. Not many, but enough. Silent like him, marked like him. He was not alone anymore. He landed at the edge of the Vayari city. No music played, no welcome given, but the people came to the streets, not to cheer, to stare, to see. Solari waited at the steps of the citadel. No guards beside her, no crown on her head. Just her, just him. He stepped forward, stopped, bowed. She stepped forward too and bowed lower. Gasps echoed from the crowd. She bowed to him? A human? But no one stopped her. Not this time. He looked at her. She met his eyes. No fear, no shame, just truth. "You called me unworthy," he said. Her voice didn't shake. "I was wrong." He paused, then answered, "You weren't wrong." The crowd held its breath. He stepped closer, his voice quiet. "But you're not wrong now." He turned to the city, to the walls, to the sky filling with shadows. "You remembered," he said. "So now we return." The other marked ones followed him, slow, steady. They didn't look like soldiers. They looked like echoes made solid, memories given shape. And the machines in the sky, so proud, so strong, began to slow, because these were not just humans. They were answers. Solari stood beside him as the battle began. Not behind him, not in front, beside. And when the war came to the gates, they fought together. No orders, no speeches, just purpose, just bond. And this time, when he reached for her hand, she didn't pull away. She held it, tight, like she never wanted to forget, ever again.